Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. We are going to do a redraw on one of my Instagram posts that you see over here on the side, and I picked out a couple of pictures on the outfit that I wish I was wearing when I posted this picture. So we are just going to redraw my post as my post should have looked like this, or I wished my Instagram looked this way, because who doesn't want an aesthetic Instagram, right? So if that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and stay tuned. And if you're new here, my name is Anchora, where we do art every Sundays, and sometimes we'll do a DIY and haunting videos on Thursday. So go ahead and subscribe. I would love to have you as part of our community, and if you consider hitting it the thumbs up, that would be greatly appreciated as well. But let's go ahead and get into remaking my Instagram post to make it look spookier. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So over here in the corner, I used a program called PureRef. I will link it down below, but it enables you to create a collage to put on top of your screen here. Now you do have to make sure that you put this in the correct mode. So I'm just gonna go ahead and right click here, and yep, if it lets me, and then go up here to mode. And then you want to select always on top. This way you can have your images on top and your references readily available without it disturbing the program underneath. So if I'm clicking around on Photoshop, it's not going to go away. It's always going to stay right there where I put it, and it's nice so you don't accidentally click on it and make it disappear, because I don't know about you guys, I absolutely hate it when I do that with my artwork, and then I'm scrambling to find where I put my reference pictures. And you can also save these so you can come back to them later, but it's just a really good clean area to put all of your stuff in, and I absolutely love it. AKA, this is not sponsored, but I do really like it. So let's go ahead and get started. My idea here was we were going to redraw my Instagram post, the one as you can see with the big pumpkin, and I wanted to draw it as a what I wish this post looked like, because it has so much potential here, but yeah, it's not really aesthetically pleasing as I want it to be. So we're going to go ahead and redraw it, and I do that by sketching out exactly where I want the position to be. I couldn't decide if I wanted to do full body or just 3/4 body, but ultimately I did end up going with just the 3/4. So this is just me sketching it out. You can see my pumpkin is a little lopsided, but that's okay. We'll fix him later on. And I wanted to try and get a similar position since it is just a redraw and not a complete redo. And I also compiled together some clothing reference pictures over here on the outfit that I wish I was wearing. Now I did order these pants, and in real person, or real life, in real life they're actually brown and not orange, so that was really disappointing, but I wish I was wearing the orange stripy pants here, and so that's what we end up drawing in the picture. So I am just putting in some of the facial details here. As you can see, I tried to copy the same smile that I had in my picture, but I don't know what it is. Every time I draw smiles, they just come out so creepy and just ridiculous looking. And on top of that, I've got a cone head right now. Go ahead and erase that. But yeah, so I don't end up keeping the smile, but I did try, and then I moved this arm a little bit. I think it was a little long there. And my favorite thing to draw ever is ruffles, so I went with this ruffly shirt that I absolutely adore. And this hand was kind of a struggle. I wasn't really sure how I wanted to put it on here. And then there is my fun little quick jack-o'-lantern. So I just put in those ruffles, and then I start lining out the jeans. They are high-waisted, so they're going to have a longer zipper panel here. And then I did attempt to draw the rest of the legs and just have it cut off at the edge of the picture, but for some reason when you draw it like that, it just looks really awkward and misplaced. So I did not end up keeping the whole leg, and she looked like she had a little shrunken head, so we went ahead and made that larger as well. And then of course, don't forget to save, because I find myself doing that quite often. Okay, so here I am trying to do the flare on the bottom, but the angle it was at was really awkward. If I made her smaller, I'm sure the flare would have worked out just fine, but I decided to just go with the cropped off leg. That sounds weird, cropped off leg. But here I am just putting in the line art. I'm using the same brush, I just make it thicker. I like the line art to be a little bit more noticeable, but I don't do it pitch black. I like to use reds or browns, just because I feel like they look a little bit more natural. But here I am trying to put in that smile, but every time they just look so creepy, and I just haven't really figured it out. So I decided to abandon that altogether, and I just did one of my usual simple smiles that I draw all the time. And then I just started filling in everything else and filling in the hair. I decided to draw my new short hair, even though I had gotten my hair cut after this picture was taken, just because I feel like it matches my personality a little bit more and it matches with the look of the drawing as well. And yeah, and I also changed up the hand position a little bit so it didn't look really flat, because we want more dimension in our artwork, right? But the rest of it from here wasn't too bad. It was actually fairly easy. I did struggle with this hand, however, because again, I wanted to switch up the direction. I didn't want it to look really, really flat. And then I wanted to make sure I got the pumpkin right as well, because you can see, since he is a plastic pumpkin, he is very flat on the bottom, to make sure that he can stand up in your home. But yeah, I think I got it overall. So I noticed later on in my drawing that I actually forgot to draw these stripes all the way up to her belt line, because she's not actually wearing a belt, but for some reason I stopped it as if she is. I do fix this with coloring, but I definitely forgot to put in the line art. And then always remember, when you're doing stripes, to make sure that they fold and bend with the curves and the folds of the clothing, because you don't want them to look really stick straight even though you have folds in there, because that would look really, really weird. But yeah, and I did struggle a little bit with the hip here. It just seemed really oddly placed, and so I moved him over a little bit. And then here I am just filling out the pumpkin to make sure that we don't block where his face is going to go. And then we stick in his little jack-o'-lantern eyes. I love these. They're super easy to draw. And his expression was a lot of fun too. Just a bunch of squiggly doos. And then here I am just adding the top of it. I feel like he's a little bit too wide in the back, and I should have moved his face back a little bit more, but that's okay. It's all in the style, right? And then I do some little fixing ups with the face here, since she's not going to have that big smile. We don't need to have the wrinkles around her nose or any particular nose definition. And then I added a little bit more to the hair, and that's our line art. So since we've got the line art in here, I am going to go ahead and start naming my layers. I forget to do this quite often, and I've been trying to get better at remembering them. So I did try to name them as I used them here. But when I do my layers, I like to do them by color rather than object. I think I talked about this in one of my other art videos before. I'll link those up here if you haven't seen them. But it just makes it a lot easier when it comes to shading, and then you have less layers to work with, because if you get too many of them, it can kind of start to become overwhelming. And it's just nice it's just nice to have only a few layers to worry about rather than, a ton of them. So I'm just coloring in everything that I want to be orange here. Now, since they are similar colors, the shades and everything are going to look similar as well. If I have too many colors clustered in one spot that I want them to look very different, then I will put those on different layers, but for the most part, they're going to be on the same layer. And then since we are doing them all on the same layer, shading is a lot easier because we just do that clipping mask right on top of it. And yeah, that's I don't really have much else to say about that. But you can see here at the top, that's what I was talking about. I forgot to do the line art for the stripes around her waistband, and so I colored those in. I totally meant to put the line art back, but as I was doing the shading, it wasn't super noticeable, so I actually just left it the way that it is. And then since I was in the orange range, I went ahead and started coloring the skin. Yeah, so I'm just realizing that I probably should have put some more pink in her skin, or in my skin, I guess, technically, because you can see that I'm very pink toned, and that is natural with red hair to be very pink. But I'm just coloring that in here, all the little peaks. And I do all the flat colors first before I do anything else and get all the layers organized because it makes the shading quicker. And then here I'm doing the black shirt. As I had talked about in my last art video, the vampire ogre. If you haven't seen that, I'll link it up here. But I use a dark gray for the blacks, and then I'll go in with the pitch black for the shading, especially with the matte coloring. But you can hear some more information, and I give more details on that video. So again, I'll go ahead and link that up here. And then there I am, like a pro, labeling my layers. I really have to start remembering to do this. But I put in the last little colors here with the white stripes. These were a lot of fun. Don't have much else to say about the stripes. But now that we've got all the flat colors, we are ready to go ahead and put the shading and the detail on top. And this part is super easy and actually does not take that long to do because I did all the flat layers. So we're just going to go ahead and add a layer here, create a clipping mask, and then I actually switch over to a softer brush. I use this round airbrush and then add in soft details. I just feel that it fits this picture better. Like if it was a photograph, it would be a little softer. Versus if I was doing more of a comic style, then I would definitely want to use a harder brush for the shadows. But I just tried to copy the shading that I saw in the picture, and that made it really easy because I didn't have to worry about light direction, and I just pretty much copied what was there. But yeah, I think the hardest thing to shade is the face. I tend to overdo it sometimes, and it looks like her face is dirty, or she's got like a mustache or something. But I'll fix it in a little bit here. And then I just color in the eyes. I'm gonna leave them really flat and simple, just because they are so small. I don't want to add too much to it and have it become overwhelming. And then you can see here at the bottom of my screen that I'm switching between the smudge, pen, and eraser. It shows it at the bottom there what tools I'm going into, pen mode, eraser mode. So that's just a little function here. And then I took that really light color and tried to highlight the nose, but I just couldn't figure out how I wanted it to be highlight. So I just went with some squiggly doos because those seemed like the best option. And then I colored in my fingernails, and I noticed that there was a lot of orange everywhere, so I just went back in and colored or cleaned up the color. When I'm doing my coloring, it gets a little bit messy sometimes, and so I just clean it up later. And then you can go back to the main skin layer and just color it in with either the dark color that you're already using, or you can get the skin color again, and that will help fill out anything that you might have missed. And then I go ahead and use that smudge tool to smudge out any areas that I feel like I might have overdone it with the shadows, so I can blend them in and they look a little bit more natural. But yeah, that's pretty much for her skin. I did the purple lipstick because I absolutely love wearing that color, even though sometimes I feel like it takes a lot more bravery than what I actually have. Same thing with this outfit though. This outfit would take so much more bravery than I actually have in real life. So that is why I wish my Instagram looked like this. If you definitely relate, go ahead and hit a thumbs up on this button, because I feel like our ideal style is always different from what we actually wear. We should live our ideal lives. But anyways, I went ahead and started using that pitch black, as I discussed earlier, to fill in the shadows, and then I again use the smudge tool to just go ahead and smudge those out here. I absolutely love the ruffles on this. They just look really amazing to me, and I was very impressed with how they came out. And then when I do the white, I actually use either a light blue or light purple, just kind of depending on the light and atmosphere of the image. And so in this one, since it's an outside picture, I went ahead and used the light blue because I didn't want to dull it down. I feel like when you use light gray to shade on white, it just becomes very dull and flat. And if you've seen a few of my videos already, you know that I love dynamic and dimension. So that's why I went ahead and used the light blue there. And then it's not super noticeable. It's just a subtle detail that I absolutely love. And then same thing here on that pumpkin. I just kind of copy the colors from the image. You can see that there's browns at the bottom, there's a little bit of reds, and then I put those same reds in my hair just because I absolutely love that pumpkin orange. And then I actually used a brown to color in the orange stripes, because as you can see in the picture of the jeans, their shadows look a little bit more brown than red. So, and I actually really liked it because I made it pop out and stand out from the pumpkin so that they're not all the exact same. And then I went ahead and used the smudge tool once again to blend that out so that the lines weren't so harsh. I wanted it to be more of a gradual shading. But yeah, and then the next thing that we have here is we are going to go ahead and create a new layer on top of everything and fill in his cute little jack-o'-lantern face. I did originally do the same light cream color that is in the photograph, but it just seemed too flat to me, so I went ahead and went for a really bright yellow, and I really like it. It stands out, it's more noticeable, and I like the detail on it. Now he's not lit up, so the inside is going to be black. And so I just went ahead and colored inside his eyeballs with the pitch black color. I didn't bother to use the gray in here or anything, so just the plain black. Okay, at this point we're pretty much almost done. I just added in a couple of little details here after I finish up this jack-o'-lantern. I think the hardest part with Photoshop is coloring everything in by hand. I do try to use the magic wand tool sometimes, but it's just not perfect, and you still have to go in and clean it up, so I'd rather just color it anyways, versus like Procreate where you can do the autofill and actually looks really, really great. But yeah, so it takes a little bit more time here in Photoshop. But I went ahead and put in like a sage green background, and then the famous bright yellow moon that is in so many of my goddess pictures. If you haven't seen any of my shadow goddesses yet, I would definitely rec it out, and the link down below, you can check out my TikTok. But that is it for today's video. That is how I wish my Instagram looked. And I appreciate you guys joining me today, and don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you guys next week. Keep on spooking.